My name is Warren Strickland. I currently reside in Birmingham, Alabama, and I've been sculpting for about 34 years now. My art has been the biggest part of my life since I was just a little boy, about 6 years old. I guess I've always been an artist. I started out two-dimensionally with pencil was my favorite medium up until sculpting about 34 years ago. So what does it mean? It's always been with me since the earliest memory I currently have. So. It's a block that started out at 5.5 cubic feet, almost 1,000 pounds. It's going to be the first 1/4 of a Viking warship with war shields on the side. The ship is going to sit in a bunch of waves in the ocean, and on the front profile, we're going to try to put a face of Odin, the Norse god. The best piece is probably the most current clay sculpture I did. It was a life-size bust of Pope Francis. It's currently residing over at the library for the festival. The worst piece, there's probably been dozens of them over the years. They end up in the trash can. I've got a website under development, but I have a pretty decent Instagram presence. It's under Neraw Creations, Warren Strickland, and the Neraw is just basically Warren spelt backwards, so look for me on Instagram. I think getting the rough in is the hardest part. Getting all of the massive amounts of stone removed so that you can get to the fun part, the detail. I usually excel at the detail really well, but getting it all blocked in and getting the design to sit in that block out is the hardest part for me. I think this year I'm going to say Michael Charlito. Michael he's got an interesting way of looking at the world. He takes his ideas, and they're mainly abstract, but he applies his own personal philosophy to the idea. And when those two mix, it makes for an interesting piece. A lot of sculptors stick with one theme, or they do all busts, Native Americans, or they do an animal and they like to repeat that animal. They do fish. For me, I try to keep things more interesting by diversifying. I try not to do the same thing twice, and I don't generally repeat one genre after another right away. I may come back to it years later, but try to always move on to something different to show diversity.